And good evening. Welcome, one and all. John Phillips here, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight for the next 60 minutes. Let a few of you get on the stream if you're on our YouTube channel or X. Not sure if we're on Facebook just yet, but we're going to make sure that the show does get on the air this evening. Hope you had a nice weekend. Busy week for me last week. I was on the road quite a bit, traveling. My goodness, almost 1,500 miles in my car from Sunday to Thursday. It was a pretty long week, but we did two shows live. Wednesday, we did not do a show. I was kind of in transit with meetings in South Carolina, then over to Charlotte for a Thursday morning meeting, which went extremely well. And happy to say that my time on the road was well spent, put some people to work, but more importantly, got a contract, and we're going to put some more people to work, which is really nice. And for what I do, being on the road as much as I am at times, and it's going to get busier here real soon. For me personally, good evening to those of you that are in the chat this morning. Adam says good evening and happy Monday to you as well. You're always welcome to leave comments, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or X, at Steel City Sunday, of course. We are not live on our Facebook page. For some reason, we have been having problems getting connected to our Facebook page, and I've got to figure that out, among other things. I did get the internet situation figured out, which is nice here at home now. I can have guests on and not have any lag issues, which is always very important. We had some issues there, but that was on my end. Got those figured out. And so we are broadcasting live, and I believe we are on our X. No, we're not even on our X page. Oh, well, I guess I think It's a Wrap Sports has us. Well, what we'll have to do is just get over to It's a Wrap Sports, and hopefully we can, for some reason, we're not even live over there. Well, we're just on our YouTube channel tonight, unfortunately. I don't know what more I can do, but I guess I'll do my best when it comes to just getting the show on the air. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a couple different topics. I had some topics that I wanted to discuss today. We'll start with Brooke Pryor from Saturday. Of course, she covers the NFL for ESPN. I believe she's in Cleveland and covers the Browns by de facto. She covers the Steelers quite a bit. Saturday, she had a report on SportsCenter talking about Aaron Rodgers, and basically that, it looks pretty good that if he's going to come back in 2026, that it's going to probably be the Steelers, or he's not coming back at all. So that story kind of got dropped. And then in addition to that, she said, I'd put it in pencil, but not in pen. The fact of the matter is that the Steelers want an answer soon. And I laid this out in an article that I put on our Facebook page on Sunday. The reality of it is right now for the Steelers, and I don't think I'm really breaking any news here, but the simple truth of the matter is this. This team is going to have to live and die with Aaron Rodgers for one more year. It's probably going to be the best route for the Steelers right now, is that they get Rodgers back under contract for one more year and make one more attempt with him. While they're doing this, they're going to have to figure out who is going to be the backup if Mason comes back for one more season, and also if they're going to draft anybody in April. A lot of talk about Ty Simpson from Alabama potentially going with the 21st pick. I shared my thoughts on that Sunday as well in the article. I don't think the Steelers should go with a quarterback in the first round. I think they need to take a wide receiver. I did a short on Friday about it as well. The reality of this whole situation is you've got this new, we are on our X page on Steel City Sunday, so that's good. We are on this, we're on this idea that, Will Howard is going to be the future. I don't believe he's the future. I don't know that to be certain. But I'm just going to be completely honest with you here. If this team is going to make any kind of run next year, it's going to be under Aaron Rodgers. That's just how it's going to be, unfortunately. There's no other way to describe this. They have very minimal options right now because they've been in such a quagmire under Mike Tomlin the last decade. They've been in this weird spot for 10 years now, where Mike Tomlin has gotten them to the first round of the playoffs, if he got them there, and they get blown out. And so therefore they float in this sea of 18 to 21, 22 selection for 9 years. And it does not allow you to get into the top 10, to get into the top 5 in terms of where you're going to pick and really get your hands on a marquee talent. They have, and of course, in 2022, they decided they were going to go with Kenny Pickett because he was available, right? And again, the hype off of Kenny, they won the ACC, right? They had an amazing year. He had an incredible year. He was projected as a 6th round pick at best heading into that season. And I remember that fairly well because I was living down in South Carolina. I went up to the ACC championship game. It was just a short 3-hour drive to Charlotte. I was in Charlotte last week. Great city, by the way. He played in that game. That's the famous game where he was running that football and then he kind of faked like he was going to slide and the Wake Forest defenders, they kind of stopped and he continued to keep running and he scored a touchdown and they changed all the rules. Changed all the rules in college football. In the NFL, you can't do that anymore, which was brilliant on his part. I mean, strategically, it was genius, right? And probably the most famous play from that otherwise unforgettable or very forgettable ACC championship game that nobody went to. And then of course the disaster that was, the Kenny Pickett experiment. And again, I know a lot of people don't like to blame Tomlin, but I mean, he had a large hand in all of that, right? They reached on him. It's at the end of the day, he was the man running that franchise on the football side of things. I know it was the last year for Kevin Colbert, but don't tell me that Colbert made that final call. That was Tomlin. Can't convince me of anything otherwise. It wasn't Omar Khan. I can assure you of that right now. I see that we're getting a little bit more people here in the stream. Good evening, people. Thank you for joining me. John Phillips, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. We do this 3 nights a week. We'll have 3 shows for you this week. So hopefully you'll hang out with us and enjoy. Please, if you're on X and you have not joined our YouTube channel, I would ask that you so kindly go to our YouTube page and subscribe. We are at Steel City Sunday on all the social media sites and would very much like to get that YouTube channel built up here over the next few months as we head into the NFL draft. I have every intention of providing 3 full days of coverage of the NFL draft as it is right now. We're a little over 66 days away, I believe it is, from the NFL draft. Working on trying to get downtown with a group and have a broadcast down there for 3 straight nights. We want to be there, the entire cast and crew. We're working on it diligently. I hope to have some more on that come the first week of April. We've got about 7. I've got about 7 more weeks of just straight up, marketing and sales and trying to find people that would gauge some interest in that. And, of course, we're doing this show 3 nights a week because we didn't want to just go dark after the football season. I started this off with just a Steelers pregame, postgame show. With the intent of growing here, and we're going to do that. I think we're doing that. We're in the process of that right now. But that's why we've added 3 shows a night, and of course we stream on Wednesday nights at 8:00 with the Pittsburgh Sports Desk and Gridiron Weekly. That being hosted by Bill Akins, who produced my show for me this year on the Steel City Sunday side. Okay, so I digress. Let's go back into, just the Steelers' dilemma that they've been in, and they are right now. I will say that they have 12 picks. I don't know if the compensatories have been awarded just yet, but the Steelers are in an interesting position for sure when it comes to the draft. What they can do to maybe move themselves up to try to get into the top 2 or 3, to try to take a top flight wide receiver. I think that's the move for them. But the problem is any of these guys that are highly coveted are going to go second and third, or probably within the top 5 or 6 picks, most likely. And so you have you're in this weird spot once again, as the Steelers have been for so long. I don't know if they have enough in their arsenal to move up to a point where they would take somebody of that nature. If anything, they could potentially move back a few spots and maybe try to grab a few more picks. I think they just need to load up with as much talent as they can with the 12 picks. Whoever the most best available wide receiver is. Now, if Ty Simpson's there at 21, the quarterback from Alabama, you may have to take a look at him. Which means Will Howard is in jeopardy, and especially if Mason Rudolph is coming back. And I can't imagine Rudolph isn't. And again, if the Steelers are going to sign Aaron Rodgers, you can't think that Malik Willis is going to be an option. I saw a report today that Jordan Love's is talking about wanting to be traded out of Green Bay because it looks like the Packers may franchise Willis for a year. So there's a whole thing brewing up there in Cheeseland that could set off a weird dynamic. There's a lot of moving parts right now. But the most important thing when it comes to Aaron Rodgers is that he makes a decision before March 11th. March 11th is the start of free agency. I don't anticipate anything happening before they get to the combine, which I believe is either the 22nd or 23rd. The combine goes till March 2nd. I believe between March 2nd at the end of the combine and before March 11th, which is the start of free agency, we will have a decision on Aaron Rodgers. We might get some leaked news before then, right? Like Brooke Pryor on Saturday leaking, or at least saying, hey, I'd write it in pencil, but not in pen. That McCarthy and he have talked. I would think they've talked probably several times. And I would think that there's a good indication that Aaron is wanting to come back one more year, run it back with his old coach one more time. And look, the cupboard isn't bare on the Steelers, right? I think they need a fresh perspective. And again, a lot of people are saying, ooh, if they have a bad season, we told you so. You'll be asking for Mike Tomlin back. No, we won't. No, I don't think Mike Tomlin coaches another day of football in the NFL ever again. That's my vibe on that right now. I don't know if Mike ever comes back, period, to be completely honest with you. I think that Tomlin's days in the NFL are done, but that's just my 2 cents on all of it. Okay, if you have a comment you want to drop, you're welcome to do so. We're happy to take your comments in YouTube or Facebook or X, please. More than happy to hear what you have to say. If you're on our X page, just click on the live link. You can see the show. For some reason, it's not streaming actually on the page. For some reason, you have to click on the link. It's weird the way some of these things operate, but I digress to the point of moving on to some other subjects. Okay, we've talked a little bit about the Steelers. Let's talk a little bit about Miami today. The Dolphins cut Tyreek Hill, 32 years of age. They're trying to save money under the cap. They're looking to probably cut Tua Tagovailoa, their quarterback. That'll come at a specific date and time because in the NFL, you have certain markers in the schedule where when you cut a player, it costs you X, but if you wait on this date, it's Y, and if you wait another date, it's Z. But Cheetah at 32 vowing on social media that he'll be back for another season. Look, is he worth something? You know what I mean? Like, he's coming off an ACL. He had an injury. I don't know what his availability will be like on the football schedule this year. At 32 years of age, probably his best days past him. Is he worth a look? That's the desperation you are in as a Steelers fan. I would say no, but some team is going to give him a go, right? Especially with the Dolphins picking up a large portion of his contract. It's almost like a And Tua falls under the same category where Russell Wilson was coming out of Denver. The Broncos were on the hook for most of it, and league minimum became the case. There's Tua out there. I don't think the Steelers are going to look at him in any serious capacity. Again, I think the best path moving forward for the Steelers is to have Aaron Rodgers under center, and you just have to arm him with some more weapons, right? I want to see Jonnu Smith gone. I'd like to see at least, a rookie wide receiver. I'd like to see them maybe take a shot at somebody in free agency. You arm him with better weapons, especially at the wide receiver core. You bring back Kenny Gainwell, and you give Warren and Gainwell another round as the 1-2 combo at running back. I thought that worked fairly well last year for the Steelers, all things considered, right? Warren was never going to be a guy that carried the ball 350 times. He's not built that way. But the combination of Gainwell and Warren was fairly effective last year. And I don't have the final statistics in front of me, but I can try to look them up here pretty quickly. They had to have combined, I would think, for 2,500 total yards. I'm almost certain they did. I'm just kind of popping in here and taking a look at some of these numbers here right now. Yeah, Warren ran for 958. Gainwell had 537. So combined, they ran for nearly 1,500. They were 5 yards shy at 1,500 yards. And then Gainwell had another 486 out of the backfield. Warren, another 333. So they had 7 and 15. They combined for 2,200 yards last year, running and receiving. I'd take that kind of production next year all day long. And I would think Steeler fans would do so as well. If you're picking up a solid rookie wide receiver to come in, you get it. Maybe you find somebody that can be a good number 2. You've got room under the cap, right? The cap's expanding to about $310 million this year. They're already about $50 million under the cap. They could cut Patrick Queen. They could cut a few other players that could save them, another $30 million or more, depending on, when they cut some of these guys. I know Queen is one of them. Jalen Ramsey's another. So you have some guys on the roster where if you cut them and you don't want them back, all of a sudden now you're looking at $90, $100 million under the cap. You can go out and get yourself a good WR2. I'm not writing anything off just yet, right? How they play things with the cap, players that they can cut, those types of moves are going to tell me how serious they are with this new administration, Mike McCarthy and his complete staff now, and moving forward with Omar Khan. And they have a plan in place. Once Rodgers has a decision, they protect him. I thought that offensive line played well enough towards the end of the year. They protect him and they figure some things out defensively. They're not in a bad spot. They're in a tough division. They've got good, competent quarterbacks in Baltimore and Cincinnati. You can make fun of them all you want. I don't know what's going on up in Cleveland. I can't wait to play Shedeur Sanders twice. I can tell you that right now. If it's him, right, it's most likely going to be him. But, and they've got a stout defense. I'm sure that defense will be mostly intact when they come back. I don't think Rodgers is so bad, even at 42. I don't think he's bad. It's just going to really depend on what they can bring in during free agency. The next 3 weeks are going to tell us a lot as we get into March 11th and free agency. Okay, I want to switch to the Pirates for a few minutes. Talking about the Pirates, I will discuss Pitt in a little bit, but I wanted to get into the Pirates stuff because the pitchers and catchers, of course, are in Pirate City. And, they will have a full complement of players here very shortly. And before you know it, we'll have spring training games and, the smell of optimism. If you're a long-time suffering Pirates fan like yours truly, I proceed with caution this time of year, always, right? And we're coming off a year where Paul Skeens won the Cy Young. You've got this Connor Griffin who is turning heads. I want to talk about him in a few moments. The Pirates have now reported to Pirate City. You got AJ Burnett down there mentoring the pitchers, which is nice. He was asked to come back. You've got this whole thing with Andrew McCutchen. He's complaining and crying about one more season. I think 3 years was enough on the back end of his farewell tour. I have a sneaky suspicion that the Pirates will sign him to a 1-year deal. I have a sneaky suspicion that he'll come back as some sort of DH, occasional fill-in somewhere in the outfield, probably center. I don't know if he's good enough to play center at this stage. Who knows? But I'm curious to gauge your thoughts on the Pirates coming in this year, and especially with Connor Griffin. And I wanted to share some thoughts on him here because apparently Fangraphs, and I don't pay enough attention as I once did to baseball. Fangraphs apparently is a very, very big site that covers baseball. And one of the things that was brought up to me today was, hey, have you seen what Fangraphs said about Connor Griffin? I'm like, that's that young kid that they drafted, a season or so ago in 24. And he's like, now he's not even 20 years old. And according to this individual that I respect, and he pointed me into some information, I went to Fangraphs, and apparently they are saying that he may be the most elite prospect that they've ever graded in their in their website's history, which is pretty amazing, right? If you think about it. The fact that this website evaluates him as one of the top prospects ever evaluated in the history of the modern era of baseball. Griffin is just an absolute young stud, 6'4", 225 raw power, 19 years old, going to play shortstop. He was the 9th pick overall in the 2024 MLB draft, signed for $6.5 million. And I mean, the way the Pirates handle these young superstars is they baby them in terms of how they bring them up, right? They want complete and total control for as long as they can, right? In Major League Baseball, you have these certain guidelines based on where and when you were drafted. If your parent club has you in A ball, and they decide they want to bring you up to the majors for some reason because you're just so good, your MLB clock for free agency starts at a certain time. But if you wait to a certain point in the schedule, like for example, here in 2026, it might be May 31st. Right. So like if Connor Griffin were to be brought up beforehand, his clock for free agency would trigger. Right. And again, I would have to go and research all of this, but I'm just giving you the kind of cliff notes on how things work. What the Pirates have traditionally done, and you can go back and look at Garrett Cole, you can look at Paul Skeens, you can look at any of the guys that they've controlled in this last 25 years, right, under current ownership and previous ownership, which was, very similar. A top level prospect was never brought up until they reached a certain date on the schedule because it meant the team itself, the Pirates, would lose time on free agency. And they don't want to do that because ultimately what happens is, these players eventually make their way to the major league roster, and then you have off seasons where they go to arbitration and then they get a little bit more money, right? Like Skeens is making, I think, less than $1 million a year. I don't know what his contract calls for this year, but last year I'm certain he was making less than $1 million a year. And he won the Cy Young, right? And I don't think he went to arbitration this year and got more money, right? Again, something I will try to look up. I was a little busy today. I'll do some of that research later tonight when I'm not sleeping, which is most of the time, and I'll take a peek. But they want to control time, right? That's the goal of the organization. They want to control the player for as long as they can. They're going to get as much as they can out of the individual because they know deep down at the end of the day, no player is going to sign a friendly extension, even for a year or two, to the club. They want to go out and maximize their value. And the way contracts are looking at this day and age, Connor Griffin, whenever that time comes, and if 2030, 2031, whenever he is brought up, this five-tool superstar with a massive power is going to command an insane amount of money when it comes right down to it. He is currently assigned to AA Altoona. Griffin will probably start the year there, and we'll see how he progresses up to AAA and then perhaps to the Pirates at some point in time. But again, it's about the calendar and what MLB says. He might not see the roster until September, which is scary to think because this team needs power, right? This team needs power. They need people that can get on base. They need people that can hit home runs. They did add Ryan O'Hearn this year, a 2-year, $29 million contract. Earlier today, the Pirates finally got things wrapped up with Marcell Ozuna, who's going to be their DH. It's a 1-year contract with a mutual option for 27, $12 million this year, a $16 million mutual option for next year if he signs. They did have a bunch of bonuses in there as well. But, and again, Ozuna, great player 10 years ago when he was an all-star. I mean, he was an all-star in 24, but, he was an all-star in 2016, 17. He's a 2-time Silver Slugger Award winner. He won a Gold Glove in 2017, but this is a decade ago. But they did add a couple of bats this year. They needed to beef up. Their payroll is going to probably be over $100 million once the season starts, and that's the first time ever in franchise history, I might add. If you go back to 2012, 13, and 14, and 15, they were clocking in there between 75 and 90, 91 million, I think, in 2015, right? They had A.J. Burnett. They lost him. He came back, and, it just wasn't really the same. And that was at the height of Kutch. They had Kutch, obviously, during that stretch, and it was early in his career. And, of course, he went off to free agency once his time was done here to go make his big money. But, the fact of the matter is that they've got this amazing young stud that somehow they got with the 9th pick in 24. And this kid's got all the talent. Like, he's literally a 5-tool superstar baseball player. Right. He is undoubtedly gifted. There was some video of him at BP today, just taking cuts at practice or just at the cage and just killing the ball, just absolutely killing the ball. I mean, I can tell you right now, if he does start the season in Altoona, I'm going to make the trip out 22 and go see him play. I want to see this kid. Right. I want to see what he is all about. I can only imagine how he's going to dominate AA baseball. But again, in baseball and with teams of this nature, and the other component to this is the lockout. We'll talk more about that here in a few moments. But Griffin is exciting enough that, you've got Skeens, who's the component of your pitching rotation, and they've kind of, tried to build around that. And they had a good rotation last year. They just didn't really provide anybody with run support. Their run support was, I think we were like 29th in runs scored last year. You've got to get guys on base, and you've got to score runs in baseball, right? If you have a real dominant pitching staff and you can produce an extra half a run a game for them, you're going to win 90 games. You're going to contend for a playoff spot. I mean, literally half the league gets into the playoffs these days, right? It's 7 teams in each league now. They have a team that gets a bye. The best record gets the bye, and then you have a series of 3 wild card rounds where you have a 3-game series in one location. So you have your division winners, and then you have essentially 4 wild cards. It used to be you had 2 teams made the postseason. You had the NLCS and the ALCS, and those teams that won the division went on to play each other, and then the winner won the league, and then they went on to the World Series. Literally 14 teams get into baseball's postseason now. That's almost half the league. If the Pirates were able to just increase run production by, a half a run, three-quarters of a run a game, they're going to score more runs. They're going to win more games. They were involved in a lot of one-run games last year. They did not provide any kind of support, especially in the first half of the year for Skeens. I mean, that was well documented. I mean, how many games did he pitch last year where they didn't score a single run or one run? Right? It was crazy. Like the concern was that he wasn't going to win the Cy Young because he would have had a losing record. He ended up having a winning record at the end of the year. I think it was 11-10. But they couldn't score runs. They can't manufacture base runners. You've got to that was the whole idea behind Moneyball, right? The whole idea behind Moneyball for the Oakland A's was to get guys that could get on base. If you can find players that are better at getting on base than the guys you had, you stand a puncher's chance of increasing your runs, your ability to score runs. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for more runs. You increase that, average run per game average by a half, three-quarters of a point, you're going to probably add 10 or 11 wins to your 10 or 12 wins to your total. And then what do you have at that point in time? You have a team that's at 88, maybe 90 wins. You're going to make the postseason. The city will come unglued if they could do that. And yeah, it's nice to see Connor Griffin swing a baseball bat, and I watched that video 2 or 3 times. I think it was Jason Mackey from the Post-Gazette on his X page. Jason does a great job of covering the Pirates. I watched that video like 3 times. I'm like, man, look at this kid swing. Like just a naturally gifted, talented guy, and he's probably not going to see the light of day up here. Maybe in September. I don't know. Something for me to look into. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. You're welcome to share them with me here in the chat section. This is Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm John Phillips. Don't forget, we are a part of the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Maddie B., who owns It's a Wrap Sports, our shows every single week that we have on the network. Pittsburgh Sports Tonight, 3 nights a week. The Final Word with Maddie B. airs Sunday through Thursday night at 9 o'clock. It's definitely Philly-centric. Most of the shows are Philly-centric, and they do have a Penn State football show during the fall. They kindly brought us on to add some Western Pennsylvania flair to their product, but they've got a lot of nice shows. Mike Laura, who does the Penn State show, does a gambling show called Props, Locks, and Parlays. You might want to check that out. On Sundays, they do a morning show on Sundays at 9 a.m. With Al Zafiri and Mike Lauro. I was on that a few weeks ago when Mike McCarthy became head coach. It was nice to talk with them. Those guys are really good. They're good people. And that's the It's a Wrap Sports Network. We have programming 7 days a week. 7 days a week. And we're trying to add some more shows here as the winter kind of moves along here. It's nice to see that the snow is almost melting. I'm not going to lie. Last Sunday, I drove out to Dayton, Ohio. It was like 9 degrees out on Monday morning when I got up. I put these three electricians to work. It's like 9 degrees outside, right? I'm like, Jesus, this is terrible. 8 hours later, I was in Greenville, South Carolina, and it was 61 degrees. I got over to Spartanburg. It touched 70. I was like, oh, man, I miss the South at this time of year. There was not a stitch of snow to be found. Now, they had gotten ice and snow the 2 weeks prior. They got snow and then ice, but it had all melted. And by the time I got back home on Thursday, a good portion of the snow had finally melted away. It's nice to see that it's mostly done. We'll be in the 60s by the middle end of the week, which is really nice, which means hopefully by Friday there'll be a stitch of snow out. And then we got one more week of February. I think we're home. I really think we're home in terms of the snow. I really am crossing my fingers. Of course, March can always sneak up and bite us, but I'm crossing my fingers that we're done with all of the white stuff. It has been a depressing winter. Last year was bad. This one, I don't know if this was worse or not. The big snowfall was not fun, that's for sure. But I'm happy that has all kind of passed. Okay, so Pirates. I don't know how you feel about the Pirates just yet. Again, as somebody that goes back to my childhood in the 70s and going to Pirate games, and at 14, I was able to go down to Three River Stadium and go to games on my own. And I don't know how many opening days I made, between 1984 and 2016. I think it was, my goodness, it was 31 out of 32. I missed the 95 opener because I was living in Las Vegas and working in sports radio out there with Pete Rose and a bunch of other people. That was the only opener between 84 and 2016 that I missed. I haven't been to an opener since. I'm not sure if I want to go this year or not. That's as sad as that is. I don't know. I'm debating it right now. I'd like to. My wife and I went to a few of the openers when we got together, and in 12, 13, 14, and 15. But I'm not sure if I want to go to the opener just yet. I don't know if I want to commit money to Bob Nutting. And I struggle with that. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. I struggle with committing money to a guy who I don't think has the best interest of fans in mind when it comes to putting a stellar product on the field. Before he even opens up on, opening day, he's guaranteed X amount of profit without even having to spend a dime. So, that kind of stuff concerns me. That kind of stuff concerns me as a casual fan, right? I don't consider myself to be technically, I guess I am in the media. I still write for the Tribune Review, but I don't cover the Pirates. But, as a casual fan of baseball, it's the one sport that I would still consider going to. I would consider going to a hockey game. I did go to a hockey game late last year. First time I'd been to a hockey game at the new arena. Can you even imagine that? I hadn't been into that building. I'd been in that building for concerts and a few other kids shows, but I'd never been to a hockey game in the new arena. The last Penguins game that I had gone to prior to them playing the Leafs back in, I believe it was in late December, was the last game at Mellon Arena. I was at that Game 6 loss against Montreal that ended the season in 2011. And then they, of course, opened up the Coal Bucket, which is now PPG Paints. So I want to go see the Pirates play, but I have a hard time biting off a $90 ticket too. You used to be able to go to baseball games, even opening day, for $30, $40, but and I don't think Jimmy T is going to be handing me any of these anytime soon. But this was nice. This was inaugural season from PNC Park back way back in 2000, and the season was 2000, right? 2001. Excuse me. There you go, Jimmy T. If you're watching, I'll take my credential in the mail. You can send it to me here in Allison Park. Okay. Any thoughts or comments? You're welcome to do that. Please, we would love to hear from you. I got a couple of those coming in. Bruce Harper checking in via our YouTube channel. It is expensive, Bruce. There was a big story. I know that this was a big story a few weeks ago where, the Penguins are one of the lowest in attendance in the NHL. They're averaging better than 16,000 a game, but they're still like 28th or 29th in attendance in the NHL. And here's the funny thing. When I got these two tickets, Bruce, I was gifted these two tickets from a friend of mine. I came home and with my daughters, they're 13 and 12. And so I said, hey, Daddy's got two tickets to a Penguins game. Which one of you would like to go? And then it became a whole conversation about, well, why can't we just get a couple more tickets? And I started looking, Bruce, and my eyes almost fell out of their sockets, right? $100+ for a ticket. I don't even know if the upper sections were any cheaper, to be quite honest with you. And I've learned a few tricks in terms of pricing tickets. You can use StubHub and the secondary sites, Bruce. But when you look at these arenas, like for example, last week when I was in Charlotte, I wanted to go to an NBA game, and I looked at the ticket pricing. And, you could get in for as little as $4. Now, a different scenario, right? That team was sub 500. They had won like 7 or 8 in a row, but you could literally get into that game at like $4 or $5. And right now you can't look at tickets on StubHub for the NHL because At least I don't think you can. The NHL is on a hiatus right now, and I always use my CBS Sports app. My CBS Sports app is my favorite thing to use for all sports. If I'm looking at news, I look at CBS. Well, they have the StubHub links on there, and I kind of peeked at it when I got the tickets because it was like, hey, if I can't take everybody, then I ended up just going by myself. Unfortunately, one of the tickets went to waste, unfortunately, but the tickets are not cheap. I will agree with you there. And then on top of that, concessions. I feel the Pirates are going to be better this year, and you can get a seat in the outfield for $25. That's not bad. That's not bad. I like I said, I went to a couple of games last year. When I moved back in 24, I went to a couple of games in 24 that I paid for. I wanted to see Paul Skeens pitch. I was still living in South Carolina at the time. Last year, a friend of mine had free tickets routinely, and I went to 3 or 4 games because I didn't pay for them. But I did not pay for tickets last year. And I do recall getting some tickets from the Pirates organization in 24 as well. I reached out to a contact of mine, and they got us hooked up, and I appreciate that. That's why. And again, I've softened my stance on the Pirates over the years in terms of my hostility. I've just come to the realization that Bob Nutting is a businessman, and he treats this as a business, and he wants to make money. And he knows that if he tries to spend $50 million in addition on salaries, he's probably not going to make money. So it's a business decision for him. And that's hard. That's hard because it's going to lead to my next topic, which is, of course, Bruce says he knows people that have paid $200. Well, again, it's a luxury, right? I tell the story about, going to hockey games in 1987, 1988, especially in my spring of my senior year of high school at Woodland Hills. A friend of mine had a 20-game plan, and when he bought it, he was like, "Are you good for like 4 or 5 tickets?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they were $5. You could go to a Penguins game for literally $5 in 1988, and you could bring your little Wendy hamburger, bring little Wendy hamburgers in with me to eat, sit up and eat, watch the game, go buy a Coke for $1 and eat the Wendy's hamburgers and watch a really bad hockey team play. But it was, you got to watch Mario Lemieux, which was pretty cool. But so baseball is heading towards a salary cap. I'm almost certain of it. I think this is after 2026, there's going to be a shutdown, a lockout of some kind. Right. They can't continue. And you've seen some rumblings in the media. I don't know if you've been paying attention to some of this or not, but there have been some rumblings in the media as of late regarding the dominance of the Dodgers. And if you look at their 2026, spending, they're around $360 million, I believe it is. Right. It's far and away the most in baseball. They sign all the big free agents. They've got Shohei Ohtani. They've got everybody that you could possibly think of. If you're a top flight free agent, chances are the Dodgers are going to take a look at you. Until the league gets a salary cap, it's going to be this way. It's a handful of teams and everybody else trying to chase them. Everybody, and they had an opportunity in 1994. In 1994, the owners locked out the players. For those of you that are on the stream right now, if you're under 35, you're probably not going to remember this, but I remember it all too well. I was producing Bruce Kyden's show here in Pittsburgh on WJAS. Bruce used to do 2 hours a day from 3 to 5 on 1320 WJAS after spending 8 or 9 years over on Ardmore Boulevard at AM 1250. And in 1994, in the summer of 94, the owners locked out the players. They called a strike. And Bruce was hurt by that because Bruce was a huge baseball guy. He absolutely loved baseball. It was his favorite sport. He and I would talk about any number of players at the time. And I had a love of baseball because of my mother. My mother was a huge Pirates fan, and loved going down to Forbes Field in Oakland in her heyday and seeing games down there. We'll talk about school ball being better than skeets here in a few minutes, Bruce. That's a good question. So you go back to '94 when the owners had a chance to fight the union, okay, the baseball union. But at that time, the players' union was extremely strong, very strong union at that time, and the owners. At the end of the day, what happened is that the owners at the top paid off the owners at the bottom, right? And what you now have seen develop into this system that baseball has, there's a certain threshold that teams have to meet, and if they exceed it, well, that they can meet, right? There's a threshold number, and if a team exceeds it, there's a luxury tax, and that gets put down to the teams at the bottom, with the teams at the very bottom getting the most money, and it kind of trickling its way back up. And that's the system that we've had now essentially for 32 years now. Well, it just doesn't work, right? The Moneyball era proved that, look, if you configure, and this had a lot to do with analytics and the advent of, all of the sabermetrics that had took over baseball. I know sabermetrics has been around for a long time, but it really didn't start to kind of really work its way into baseball until post '94. You started to see more of it in the new millennia. And then, when the A's were able to kind of, in Oakland, able to put some playoff teams together, how did they do it? They did it through advanced analytics and sabermetrics, essentially, right? They were breaking down elements of the game and looking at them in different ways in terms of how to measure production, spray charts, right? Where do players hit the ball? Shifting, right? The shifts in baseball. Those are all components of the new era of baseball. And right now, it's still not helping because the Dodgers have clearly shown that they can go out and just spend whatever they want, get the best talent, put a juggernaut all-star team together, and they're going to win the World Series. Now, they caught a break against Seattle in Game 6 and Game 7, but they eventually won. And by all accounts right now, how do you not like them to win the World Series again this year? And so the money is crazy. I don't doubt it, Bruce. A top player can make more in 1 year than I can make in my whole life, and probably all of my friends too. You're not wrong, right? I mean, look in the NBA, top level guys are making 45, 50 million a year. Baseball, 40, 50 million a year. Quarterbacks in the NFL are in the 40 to $50 million range, right? Hockey, obviously very different, but the three major sports, the top guys are making half a hundo a year. The money has gotten nuts, and I'm not angry at the players. They should be able to try to make as much as they can because they have a window. They have a window where they're going to be elite. They're going to have a window where they are going to be able to max out what they can get. And, if that window is 8 seasons and they can make $400 million, and then in the other 10 seasons that they may play, let's say a player plays another 6 or 8 competitively, they make, $100 million, $90 million, they make $500 million over the course of their lifetime. I can't fault them for that, and nor should you, right? But the numbers statistically are just it's out of their minds. The money's just it's astronomical that they make. Shout out from Lance in the Mon Valley with much respect, much love. I'm a quasi Mon Valley guy. I don't know if I technically, yes, because of Braddock, right? Technically Mon Valley, sorta. My dad did work in East McKeesport. That's Mon Valley for sure. But good to hear from Lance this evening out there on the internet. As we wrap up our show here, we're in the last 10 minutes. We'll probably take this for another 7 or 8 minutes and then wrap up the show this evening. I'm hoping to have Tony Bruno on the show Wednesday. legendary broadcaster, of course, Bruno and Golick on ESPN radio many, many years ago. Tony kind of doing his own thing. I believe he lives in South Florida now, retired mostly, but he does do stuff. You can find him on X mostly. I think he may do YouTube, but I'm not really sure. I'm trying to work on him for Wednesday, working on a Pirates guest for tomorrow. Trying to have, interesting guests and topics every single night that we're on the air here. But yeah, General Braddock had some great, they had legendary football teams back in the 50s and their basketball teams, General Braddock. My dad went to Scott High actually, way back in the day. So that's where my lineage comes from, Lance. So again, baseball is in this weird spot right now. And I think we're going to see a lockout at the end of the baseball season. I can't see baseball continuing on. I think the owners that are on the opposite side of this nightmare have to force this hand, and they have to get with the players, and they have to figure something out. It's out of whack, and it does not provide any kind of competitive balance. You get a salary cap set. The revenue sharing and all of that should elevate teams like the Pirates, teams like the Sacramento A's, who may play in Vegas, they may not. It'll help elevate, Tampa Bay. It'll help elevate teams like Kansas City. It'll help teams in Arizona. It'll help teams in other cities where they are struggling to put a competitive team together because they can't compete in free agency because there's no salary cap. Whatever that number ends up being, however they configure it, hopefully it raises the opportunity for the Pirates to be more competitive. And that's all we're looking for. As fans, we want to know that they've got an opportunity to compete. And yeah, Skeens, great player, right? This Connor Griffin looks like an absolute superstar. Could be a generational player for this team. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But the truth of the matter is that until they have a salary cap in baseball, I don't know. As far as the Tariq Skubal conversation between he and Paul Skeens, it's kind of like a yin-yang thing. I would think. I mean, he had an unbelievable year in Detroit, Bruce. He's pretty good. A player I would go pay to see, a player I would go pay to see. I want to go up to, I would consider going up to Cleveland to see him play. And I don't know what tickets are like up at their baseball park right now. I think it's called Progressive Field. And I hate calling them the Guardians. They're the Indians, just like Washington's football team is the Redskins. I'd go pay to see him. I don't know if the Tigers are coming here or not this year for interleague play. Something to take a look at. Boy, a Skeen-Skubal matchup would be pretty good, right? That would sell the joint out, I would think. I think that would be a pretty good one. I'm sure people would pay to go see that for sure. I probably would pay to go see that as well. Quickly, a couple quick topics, and we're going to wrap up here. Pitt Hoops, disappointing once again. Went down to Tobacco Road over the weekend to play North Carolina and just basically got blown out of the building. They are just they're probably not even going to make the ACC tournament. They're only putting 15 teams into the ACC tournament this year. It looks like Pitt is going to be one of the 4 teams that gets left out. Jeff Capel is completing his 7th season here in Pittsburgh. And I mean, how much longer do you keep a guy like that around? That's my question. How much longer do you keep a guy like Jeff Capel around? Pitt basketball back in action, not until I think it's Saturday. I think we actually have Saturday. They host Notre Dame. It's been a bad season for Pitt Hoops. They are 9-17. They are 17th in the ACC. 17th. I mean, does it get any worse than that? It does not, as far as I can see. And looks like we've got some minor league baseball. We've got games coming up this weekend. It looks like it'll be exciting to see some spring training games. Be happy to see that, but I don't know what Al Green does at this point in time after the season's over. What do you do with Jeff Capel? Do you just pull the rug and try to start over? I think Capel's got 3 or maybe 4 years left on his contract. I think Pitt's going to probably be eating some money. All right, I think we're done for the evening. I want to thank everybody for participating. We had almost 30 of you on the stream tonight. It doesn't sound like much, but I'll take it. We're just going to keep doing this 3 nights a week. Hopefully you tell a friend. Hopefully we continue to grow the channel, and we'll continue to provide you with more topics. I did want to talk a little. I guess I wanted to talk NASCAR and the NBA All-Star Game, but I don't think really anybody's watching that, or the Winter Olympics. I took a quick peek of the medal count. The USA used to dominate the Winter Olympics, but not so much right now. They are 3rd in medals, but it's been a rough Winter Olympics over in Milan for Team USA. Of course, a lot of was made about the conversations of the athletes beforehand, and I defended that last week. I think athletes are, if a media member wants to get political and ask them something, if they want to make a spectacle of themselves, that's their right. And I'm okay with it. I don't think they should be shutting up. I think they are welcome to speak their minds. But the Olympics are going to be wrapping up here, I believe, this weekend. Women's hockey won their semifinal matchup today convincingly. It is what it is in terms of women's athletics at that level. There's usually just 1 or 2 elite teams. But Team USA seems to be doing very well. But overall, has not been a great Winter Olympics for the American men or women. We'll be back in here again tomorrow at 7 o'clock. I hope you tune in. Lance, Bruce, Adam, all of you, thanks for checking in with me this evening in the chat. I do appreciate your kind words. We are going to end the show this evening, and we will be back again tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, with Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I'm John Phillips. Again, go to our YouTube channel if you haven't. Like and subscribe. We are appreciative. And hit the like button, please, if you can. Helps out the channel get views from a few people that might not normally see us. Until tomorrow night, I'm John Phillips. I thank you for checking us out. This has been Pittsburgh Sports Tonight on the It's a Wrap Sports Network.